All right, so today I want to talk about some work I did over the summer for the 2024 SMT Data Challenge. I decided to look into route optimization and route efficiency because overall, like it's not really stuff that's been done in the public sphere, or if it has been done, it hasn't really been done well. I know we showed one definition earlier about route efficiency, which just took the distance traveled versus the difference in distance needed. And obviously, I'll preface this now. That's not how I looked at route efficiency. But the other reason why I want to look at it is because it's often hard to judge how good a route is just by naked eye, especially when watching on TV. Some plays look really good because the player took a bad jump or just takes a bad route, and in some places look really easy because the player takes a really good route. And I'll give you an example. In this example, we got Michael Garcia, makes the ball to deep center. As you can see, you got Rafaela tracking it down right by the warning track and makes a leaping grab at the wall. Now, intuitively, this looks like a really good catch. And judging by the reactions on Twitter, some black people definitely think so, including Brandon Wild, who's a part of the Writers Association. He felt the need to go out of his way to talk about how good this catch this was. However, Statcast came out later that day and said this ball actually had a 99% catch probability. So why was the catch probability so high despite him needing to make a leaping grab at the wall? Well, here's a graphic posted by Mike Petriello later that day. As you can see here, at the start route, he immediately takes a step in, which is not a great look when the ball's in forward to feed to dead center. But so while he recovers really well in order to make this catch, it definitely isn't the optimized route. Like he should have taken a step back, and if he did that, he would have made a much easier catch. In fact, as you can see here, here's a ball with a similar distance to the final ball position and similar hang time. As you can see, Tavares gets under it with much more time to spare, and it's very routine. So how do I want to look into route efficiency? So I want to utilize the player and ball tracker data supplied by SMT to look into whether or not a player is taking a good route to the baseball, figure out which variables are important, which weren't, and then compare which fielders took efficient routes versus inefficient routes, create my own metric, which I'll get to later. I did this using two models. One was a catch probability model, which is then supplied into a route optimization model to figure out what's the optimized route for a given ball. So the catch probability model was a random forest model where I used the main predictors of distance to final ball position, where I said the final ball position was either the place where the player either made the catch or the place where the ball first hit the ground. I then also included hang time hang time remaining for each point the ball was tracked, and then the top fielder speed on the given route. It also included the final ball position for the catch probability model to account for any wall effects, since in the data there weren't any like wall dimensions or distance from wall variables that I could use. So I wanted to see utilize just the final ball position to see so the model could pick up if the ball was hit really deep, it was probably close to the wall, and therefore it would probably harder ball to catch. Then for the route efficiency model, I wanted to utilize the fielder speed to determine possible routes. Obviously, a fielder can't get to their top speed immediately. So I utilized a pseudo acceleration calculation, which you can see on the right-hand side here, where I took 10 random players home plate to first base times and found their acceleration down the line. As you see, most players max out their acceleration at around 10 feet, which overall was around 8.85 seconds on average for each player. And then to be conservative, I said they reached their max speed around 35 feet down the line, which is roughly 2 seconds down after leaving the box. So using these numbers, I created a pseudo-acceleration calculation where I said at 0 to 0.85 seconds, they had a lot of acceleration into their top speed and wouldn't reach their max speed until 2 seconds after the ball was hit. I then used fielder speeds to determine the max distance that he could travel at each point, and utilize the catch probability model and distance to final ball position to create an optimized path. So here we have an example here where the green dot represents the fielder position at that point in time, and the white dot represents the final ball position. The white circle raised represents all the points that the fielder can get to based on his fielder speed, and the white blob there is symbolizing the 100 closest points to the ball to get the fielder moving in the right direction. I then run the catch probability on that white blob and find which point maximizes catch probability to then put that fielder then goes to that point for the optimized path, and then the while reruns until the play is over. Here we can see that the difference between catch probability at the end of the play for both the optimized catch probability model versus the fielder path that was taken on the play. As you can see, for the most part, it's almost always positive. So the optimized path almost always outperforms the fielder path. You'll notice that the difference at 0.5 or 50% is very low. And that's because for the most part, what I found was that there weren't many 50-50 plays in the data. most players didn't make a play either because it was nearly impossible to make that play, or they made a play because it was a very easy play to make, which is why you see that big loop right in the middle there. So here's an example of how the optimized route works. I overlaid it with the fielder path, which is in blue, the optimized path is in light green. And as you can see here, looking at the catch probabilities in the bottom left, you can see that by the end of the route, the optimized path nearly maximizes the catch probability, and the catch probability is nearly 100. Whereas due to the fielder route, mostly because he took a poor jump to the ball, you only had a 47% chance, and you need to take a less steep route to the ball in order to stay behind the ball and not let the ball behind him. Whereas if he took a good jump to the ball, he would have actually had a chance to make the play on the ball. So I wanted to use this data to create a new metric. Obviously, with the player people in this room, I'm guessing I don't need to explain what odds above average is. Basically, one flaw that odds above average has is that it doesn't really give players credit for increasing catch probability from the start of the play. So for instance, the ball has a catch probability of 20% at the beginning of the play, and based on the fielder route, it gets up to 50% by the end of the play. But he doesn't make the play. Odds above average will dock him 20%, but I would argue that there's also an argument that he should gain. There should be a gain there because he actually added 30% catch probability by the end of the route. So that's what my route score tries to take into account, which is just simply the catch probability at the end of the play versus the catch probability at contact. So it tries to give fielders credit for taking a good route to the baseball, while they're not actually requiring the fielder to make a play on the baseball. So it's just looking at the route to the baseball and how that affects catch probability from start to end. For the most part, as you can see, like odds above average and route score typically have the same metrics. If you have a good odds above average, you typically have a good route score, and vice versa. However, there are some instances where odds above average is significantly better for one player versus another compared to route score. And I think this is because, like, especially in low sample sizes, one player get a really high amount of favorable plays. So like player 637, for example, might get a lot of plays at 60 to 80% catch probability, which he still be making a catch on. But since is around 60 to 80, he gets a lot of gain for those plays, which is why he's so high in odds above average. But looking at the route score, you can see that this player doesn't really take good routes to the baseball, and a lot of the reasons he makes these plays because he has favorable conditions to begin with. Whereas over the course of the season, where he sees more plays and more wide range of plays, we could expect his odds above average to decrease as the season goes on. Whereas fielder 435 is the exact opposite. He probably gets a lot of unplayable plays right now in the 9 plays he's seen, which is why his odds above average is low. However, the route score suggests that he's taking really good routes to the baseball. So as he sees a wide range of plays, we expect his odds above average to rise. I then use this to create a Shiny app. Unfortunately, I can't show you this now, but if you have a computer, I have a computer right here. I could run you through a tutorial. But basically, it displays the odds above average and route scores for each player that I showed on the previous slide, and also includes a interactive feature where you can create your own hypothetical plays. It's using like the fielder starting point and the fielder the final ball position, fielder speed, and the length of the play. Where you click on the plot to select the fielder point, and then the second point you click on the plot will select the final ball position. You could change, like I said, fielder speed, length of play, and then you could generate the optimized route to see what route a fielder should take to that ball in a hypothetical scenario. So some limitations in future development, I would want to look at the average fielder speed on the season where I did on the route. The reason why I did it on the route is because in this data, I did not have a lot of players or NAs or not a lot of player IDs that could tag to a given play. So it was really hard to find the average speed for a given route or find average speed over a season for each player. However, in the future, this would be a more logical approach. And I'd also like to add a give up point when the catch probability gets so low, whereas it might be less beneficial to actually keep going after the ball, whereas you might want to let the ball bounce in front of you and keep the ball in front of you and not prevent the ball from getting by you, so the fielder or the runner can get to an extra base. So yeah, with that, does anyone have any questions?
Are you okay? Yeah. I guess my one question was, when you talk about the route, the catch probability at the end of the route, did you notice a difference in terms of talent from outfielders in their ability? Like, say at the end of the route, it's a 50% chance of catching. Are some outfielders do better than that 50% chance by talent, or is this random variation? Do you know?
So I didn't focus on the result of the play. So I guess it comes down to like how good are players like catching that ball at the 50% level, like in terms of like extending to get to that ball based on the distance from it, which I didn't really take into account with the route score. But But so I didn't really like look into that, like whether one player is really good at catching balls at 50% level versus not catching the ball at 50% level, whether that's a lack of focus or some other aspect.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Anybody else?